Have you ever achieved something that you once prayed for, the relationship, success, a breakthrough, and then you felt that quiet whisper inside you say, there's still more? That whisper isn't dissatisfaction, it's an invitation. It's your spirit saying, you've learned how to create, now it's time to awaken. See, there are two parts to this journey. First, there's the law, and then there's the promise. The law is how creation works. The promise is why you were given that power. The law is about shaping your world, and the promise is about discovering the one who shapes it through you. In Genesis, it says, let us make man in our own likeness. That's Genesis 1:26. That means creation itself is an act of divine reflection. You are the image of the Creator. You are the mirror through which God sees himself. When you imagine, you're not pretending. You're exercising the same creative force that said, let there be light. That's the law. Imagination creates reality. But the promise is the revelation that the power you're using isn't separate from God. It is God. And when that realization dawns on you, you move from trying to use that power to embodying it. When you pray, visualize or assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You're not talking to God, you're awakening as God's creative consciousness within you. That's why when Jesus said, the Father that dwelleth in me, he does the works. John 14:10. He never claimed the miracles came from human strength. He said, I of myself can do nothing, but he also said, all things are possible to him that believes. Mark 9:23. Why? Because belief connects the human and the divine. Belief is the bridge between man and God. When you learn this law, when you start to assume the state of your desire, then life responds. You see prayers answered, doors open, dreams unfold, then something deeper happens. The miracles stop impressing you because you realize you were never supposed to worship the miracles. You were supposed to recognize the source. That's the turning point, when you stop manifesting from desire and start creating from divine awareness. The same spirit that formed the world is breathing through you right now. That's what Paul meant when he said, Christ in you, the hope of glory, Colossians 1:27. He wasn't talking about man outside of you. He was talking about the divine consciousness awakening as you. So let's make this real. Maybe you've learned to visualize or affirm and then it works. But then you notice you still feel incomplete. That's because manifestation without revelation only satisfies the surface. The law brings the results, but the promise brings rest. Once you start awakening to who you really are, your focus shifts. You stop saying, how can I get this thing? And you start asking, who is it that wants it? That's the real awakening. When you realize that the very I am saying I want is the same I am that says, let there be. That's why Jesus spoke in paradox. He said, ask and it shall be given to you, Matthew 7:7. And also, your Father knows what things you need of before you ask him, Matthew 6:8. So why ask? Because asking it isn't about informing God. It's about aligning with him. You're not changing his mind, you're renewing yours. When you truly get that, prayer becomes effortless. You don't beg, you don't chase, you declare, and then you rest. Because creation is finished, as Hebrews says, from the foundations of the world. Your imagination isn't creating something new, it's selecting from what's already complete in spirit. That's why faith feels at peace. You're not trying to make it happen. You're aligning with what already is. Now, the moment that you start living from your fulfilled desire, not towards it, you're no longer operating under the illusion of separation. You're living in oneness. You're doing exactly what Christ did when he said, I and the Father are one, John 10:30. The fusion of law and the promise. You understand the imagination, which is the law, and identity, the promise, are two sides of the same divine mind. When you pray as though you already have, when you see through the eyes of completion, you're fulfilling the prophecy in real time. Because scripture isn't just a record of what happened, it's a map of what's happening in you. Every miracle, every parable, every resurrection is unfolding in your consciousness right now. And that's when the awareness clicks. You realize something beautiful. The goal was never the manifestation. It was the awakening of the one who manifests. So if you've been using the law and you've been visualizing and you've been affirming and feeling it real, don't stop. Just realize the deeper purpose behind it. You're not trying to manipulate life. You're remembering who moves it. It's all God. And when you know that, everything you touch becomes holy. Even the challenges shift meaning. You stop saying, why is this happening to me? And you start saying, This too is God revealing himself, because the same power that creates is the power that awakens. And that's the journey from law to love, from creation to realization. So tonight, before you go to sleep, whisper this: I and the Father are one. The power that creates through me is awakening as me. I want you to feel that. That's the moment heaven meets earth inside of you.